And I can't believe I have to ask you this, but I do, because Donald Trump has been attacking Kamala Harris's racial identity.
He has not been, but ask your question.
Well, he questioned her racial identity. He said a number of years ago she happened to turn black. Her father is Jamaican. Do you believe Kamala Harris is black?
I believe that Kamala Harris is whatever she says she is, but I believe importantly that President Trump is right that she's a chameleon. She pretends to be one thing in front of one audience. She pretends to be something different in front of another audience. Look, Dana, she's not running a political campaign. She's running a movie. She only speaks to voters behind a teleprompter. Everything is scripted. She doesn't have her policy positions out there. She hasn't answered why she wanted to ban fracking, but now she doesn't. She wanted to fund police, but now she doesn't. She wanted to open the border, but now she doesn't. She should have to answer for why she presents a different set of policies to one audience and a different set of policies to another audience. And I think that's what President Trump is getting at. This is a fundamentally fake person. She's different depending on who she's in front of.
With respect, you
Please.
changed your position on an important thing, which is Donald Trump.
Of course I did.
And so why are
honest
you not a
about it.
chameleon?
Because, Dana, I've explained to the American people what's different. People change their minds when the facts change. They should. But if you want to be the people's vice president or president, you should have to stand before an interviewer and say, this is why I changed my mind. So to everybody who's seen that I criticized Donald Trump, since he asked the question, here are two things.
You didn't just criticize him. You said he could be America's Hitler.
Well, that's a criticism, and I didn't say that exactly, but set that to the side. What I said about Donald Trump and what I believed about Donald Trump, two things that really changed. First of all, I didn't think Donald Trump would be a good president. He was a great president. Wages were rising. The world was more peaceful. Remember, when Donald Trump was running for president the first time, they said he would start World War III. He brought more peace to the world than any president of my lifetime. The second thing, Dana, is I believed, and I'm ashamed of it, I believed a lot of the media lies about Donald Trump in 2016. I believe that he said things like, for example, the media said Donald Trump accused all Mexicans of being rapists and criminals. You actually look at what he said, he did not say that at all. And I think it's important when you see something, you change your mind, and that's all I've done. And my pitch to the American people would be, I imagine a lot of folks who are thinking about voting for Donald Trump in 2024, maybe they've bought in to the media lies about him. Think for yourself, look at what he actually said, and I think you'll find that he's, one, a very engaging guy, but two, was a very good president.
There aren't media lies.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about boy JD Vance, because JD Vance got that dog in him. I am telling you guys, JD is showing us on a daily basis why former President Trump picked him to be his vice presidential running mate, okay? Because he is amazing in interviews. He is amazing when talking to the press. He's also putting in a lot of work trying to get out the message and to get in front of the media, not run away from the media like Kamala Harris is doing. I mean, this guy spent the block on Kamala Harris, right? When she landed in Air Force Two, he pulled up and was like, yo, you talking about say it to my face? I'm right here, okay? And Kamala Harris, what did she do? She ran away, okay? Like she always does, okay? Because she's running scared. And JD is taking every single chance that he is getting, talking to the media to remind the media and the Kamala campaign that, yes, Kamala is running scared. She's not answering any questions, okay? And this, in my opinion, has been the most effective line of attack against the media and the Democrats. And this is why, as a Republican, you have to go after both, okay? You got to discredit the media, and you also have to go after the Democrats and show that, hey, these people have no solutions for how to solve the problems that they caused, okay? The solutions that they do have are bad or stolen from President Trump, which is what Kamala Harris did last night in Las Vegas. She stole Trump's signature policy proposal, which is to have no tax on tips. Again, it shows you how desperate the Kamala Harris campaign is. They can't even come up with their own original ideas, right? So with that being said, CNN's Dana Bash is going to confront JD Vance on some of the criticisms that the Trump JD Vance ticket has received from the left, okay? And JD Vance is going to give a masterclass on how to deal with the media, once again showing why Trump selected him to be his vice presidential running mate. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to distract from their own policy failures. I mean, look, this is fundamentally schoolyard bully stuff. They can accuse me of whatever they want to accuse me of. As Harry S. Truman once said, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about just take a couple of days ago. Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife and I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is two people, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who aren't comfortable in their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. And so they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't have affection for his wife? I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did, on a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home. And I think that it's projection, Dana. Look, I think this election should be about who's going to solve the inflation crisis, who's going to make groceries and housing more affordable, who's going to secure that southern border. Kamala Harris's record is that she supported all of the policies that made that problem worse, Dana. We're trying to say we're going to take the country in a different direction. I really think that it's important to point this out, Dana. Their entire campaign has not been about, here's our policy for how we're going to make your life better, or here's what's wrong with Donald Trump and JD Vance's policies. We're going to name call and hope that you don't notice that we don't have an agenda. That is the entire Democrat approach to this election.
They have done both. They have both policies, and they are trying to define
Dana,
you as well.
If you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about
policy
versus
positions about what they're going to do. I think that's really insulting to Americans.
You started out.
Wow. This is why I say JD got that dog in him, right? Because JD did not let this CNN anchor get away with what these liberal media anchors do all the time to Republicans that they never do to Democrats, okay? Which is to get in some last second statement that basically tries to discredit what the Republican just said before moving on, right? And what they do is that they do that in order to put in the mind of the viewer that no, everything you just heard from this Republican was wrong, right? Don't believe this, okay? Even though she doesn't actually have to defend her claim, right? Because now she's moving on as the interviewer. So JD Vance, as the interviewee, is saying, no, I'm not going to let you do that. She does not have any policies on her website. So for you to sit here and to claim that she's been talking about policies, that's just factually incorrect. Kamala Harris is not talking about policies. And again, this is the problem with the media. This is what they do in order to influence public perception, okay? Notice how the media interviews Democrats versus how they interview Republicans. And when it comes to interviews with Democrats, the media, they don't push back nearly as much against Democrat lies as they do when Republicans are refuting Democrat lies, right? AKA Republicans are saying things that don't go with the narrative, right? That go against the narrative from Democrats. All of a sudden, they want to try to push back. Oh, no, Kamala definitely has been talking about policy. No, she hasn't, right? And the one time Kamala started talking about policy, she's talking about Trump's policy, right? That she's stealing, okay? Furthermore, yes, JD Vance is right. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris calling Trump and JD Vance weird, that is projection, right? It is the ultimate projection, especially from Tim Walz, because I'm telling you guys right now, that guy is actually a weirdo, right? Like, and I'm not saying that in a way that's hyperbolic or no. Like, I just have a feeling that this dude has some crazy skeletons in his closet that have not come out yet. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this dude tanks Kamala Harris's campaign with the things that probably going to come out about him, because I think this dude is creepy as hell. Okay. And I have my reasons for it. Okay. Just watching the dude speak, just watching just the mannerisms, the gesticulations, the mouth movements. He just reminds me of a person that I think everybody agrees in history was a really, 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 really bad person. Okay. You know, the person that they like to compare Trump to all the time, unjustifiably, right? Yeah. That is who Tim Walz reminds me of, right? I'm so serious. I am so serious, okay? I think that guy is probably one of the creepiest people that I've ever seen in politics. And that's the irony of the attacks from the Democrats. Again, they are purely projection. But here's the thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being weird. I would say that our founders were weird, right? I would say some of the most influential people in history were weird. But I think that Tim Walz is weird in a bad way, right? Not a good way, a really bad way, okay? So let's continue on here.
Out talking about the policies in this interview, but you have been on the campaign trail questioning Tim Walz's military record. You say it was shameful that Governor Walz retired from the military before his unit deployed to Iraq. I want to read you something that Joe Eustace, who is a veteran, he served with Governor Walz, said. He said that's a lie. He said he was as good a soldier as you'll find. I'm not trying to defend him. I hope people don't think that. What I'm trying to do is defend someone who served his country. I'm not voting for him. I'll campaign against him, but I don't think it's fair to characterize his service the way they have. Governor Walz served 24 years.
Sure.
He even stayed after he could have retired because of 9/11, more than the country asked of him. Do you honor his service?
Well, of course, Dana, I honor his service, and I've never criticized what Tim Walz did when he was in the military. I criticized his retirement decision, and most importantly, Dana, I criticized his lying about his own record, okay? This is a guy who was captured on video saying, I carried a gun in war. He never went to war. This is a guy who's been captured on video. As other people say, he's an Afghanistan veteran. He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did. That's what I was criticizing. And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior.
You talked about one of the things that he said, weapons of war. He was talking in a campaign stop about, he was trying to talk about gun control.
Sure.
And he said, weapons of war I carried in war. I will say that the Harris-Walz campaign did say that the governor misspoke there.
Sure.
Do you accept that?
He misspoke. Another word is that he lied about it, and he didn't correct the record for 15 years until he was put under political pressure because I called it out, Dana. Whatever you want to call it, a misspeaking or a lie, I think Tim Walz should have to correct the record. Now, you pointed out a soldier who defended his service. There have been a number of soldiers who served with Tim Walz who have criticized him on the exact same grounds that I have because it's not right to misstate or to embellish what you've done, and I think that's what he did.
Wow. JD Vance, again, he got that dog in him. JD Vance is so well spoken. Like, he's so clear and concise in regards to what he's saying that he is actually really doing a good job at not only pushing back against the narrative here from the media, because look how she lined up this question. Do you honor his service? And it's like, well, his criticisms had nothing to do with honoring his service. I mean, everybody honors Tim Walz's service. Nobody's arguing about that. But again, this is how they try to reframe the conversation. She knows what the criticism is. The criticism is that this dude lied. And not only did he lie once, he lied multiple times, which is why it's so ridiculous for Democrats to come out here and say that, oh, well, he misspoke when it comes to one incidence of lying when this dude has a track record of lying, right? And it's even more ridiculous that the mainstream liberal media would just buy into this explanation without further criticizing the Kamala Harris campaign for basically saying that he misspoke instead of just admitting that, yeah, this dude lied, right? He lied because, again, not only did he lie about his record, which we know for a fact that he did, but he also lied about going into war. And he's done this on multiple occasions. It is clear and obvious that Tim Walz is engaged in stolen valor and that he is attempting to mislead people on his military service for political gain, which a lot of veterans see as despicable behavior. But see, Dana Walsh, she's not taking the side of the veterans who are upset about this. No, she's taking the side of the veterans who are out here trying to defend JD Vance for political purposes, because she framed the question in a way to make the audience believe that most veterans side with Tim Walz over JD Vance, right? Because notice how she read a quote from a veteran that was defending Tim Walz, but not one from all the veterans that have come out and done interviews on CNN, by the way, of them saying, no, yeah, Tim Walz, he lied, right? Again, it's just funny how that works. These people are playing defense for the Democrat Party. That's what they do. Because we know if the shoe was on the other foot, in regards to the situation, if a Republican was being accused of something like this, they wouldn't just allow them to get away with saying, well, he just misspoke, right? He just misspoke. Even though we know he lied about this on multiple occasions, he just misspoke. Again, it's amazing. It really is. JD Vance is doing an amazing job of not only clarifying the criticism in and of itself, okay, in a way that's actually accurate, okay, outside of the mainstream liberal media framing, but to also, again, call out the media for the lies, okay, the misframing of the question, right? And to go on record and say that, listen, no, there are other people that agree with what I was saying and that have criticisms of Tim Walz's record, okay? And they are veterans. And again, those veterans should not be belittled or disrespected. And I think that's important, right? I really do. I think JD Vance is doing an amazing job here.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, or excuse me, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use.
Retire.
Because
retire. Again, why does she feel the need to say retire? Why does she feel the need to say that? Because again, she's trying to defend this guy, right? She's trying to defend him.
Because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty. Dishonesty spoken in favor and for the purpose of political benefit. And I think that the most important thing here, Dana, is it goes to Kamala Harris's judgment. Tim Walz is ultimately going to be the vice president. Kamala Harris is in great health. I'm sure she's going to be president if she wins for 4 or maybe even 8 years. Why did Kamala Harris choose a person who has lied about their military service? I think that is a serious lapse in judgment. And I don't want to hear from a campaign spokesperson of Kamala Harris. I want to hear Kamala Harris herself address what I just said.
You know, I've seen a lot of statements from veterans, including those you served with, saying it's just untoward to be criticizing somebody who served for 24 years.
Dana, I'm not interested in the ad hominem. I've heard from a lot of veterans groups who criticize Tim Walz. The question is, he said he served in war, and he didn't. That is a dishonesty. I couldn't care less what one or the other person says about it. I care about what the truth is. The truth is that Tim Walz didn't tell the truth. And importantly, Dana, this is about Kamala Harris's judgment. And I think that when you ask, why has Kamala Harris allowed the border to be wide open? Why has Kamala Harris supported policies that have promoted the increase in inflation? I think it goes to the heart of her judgment, and I think that that's what we should be talking about.
One last.
Woo! Boy, JD. I'm telling you, he a dog. He a dog. Because again, this woman is, again, playing defense for Kamala Harris. That's what she's doing. She's like, oh, well, I know you just pushed back on everything that I said. I know you just destroyed my whole argument. Right? And you called out my framing in favor of the Democrats. But you don't understand. A lot of veterans are saying that this is not right. You just shouldn't criticize a guy that served 24 years. You just shouldn't do it. Well, why is she doing this? This is the white flag. This is them waving the white flag. They do this every time because they can't defend it, right? They know this man lied, okay? They know this man is trying to embellish his service for political gain. So again, they can't really dispute it. So they wave the white flag and say, oh, don't talk about it, right? Please stop talking about it. It's just not right for you to talk about this. And again, JD Vance is doing a great job of not only pushing back against the narrative from the mainstream liberal media with facts, he is also doing a great job of tying it back to Kamala Harris. Well, why does this matter, right? Why does this stolen valor conversation matter when it comes to Kamala Harris? Well, it speaks to her judgment. Why did she pick a guy that has credible allegations of stolen valor against him? Why? Did she do proper vetting of this individual? And if she did, and she knew about it, again, why did she pick him, right? Why did she pick him? Because clearly they weren't prepared for this, right? To come out and say that he misspoke. Think about it. This guy hasn't answered any questions. He hasn't really cleared it up. He hasn't said anything, right? Why is that? Because they weren't prepared for this. Kamala wasn't prepared for this. Because they were prepared, they would have a statement ready saying, listen, no, this is actually the record, right? This is the truth. But no, they've waited and they've hoped that it, goes away, but it hasn't went away. Because it's true, right? Because it's true. It's not going to go away. So what are they doing there? So, he misspoke, right? Which, again, doesn't really explain why this dude was running around claiming a rank that he didn't actually achieve. Doesn't really explain that. But, again, did Kamala Harris know about this? Did Kamala Harris know about Joe Biden mentally deteriorating? And if so, why didn't she say anything about it? If she didn't know, then again, that speaks to her judgment. She couldn't recognize that there were issues with Joe Biden, right? Is she somebody that should be leading the country? Again, JD Vance is basically saying this is why the criticisms matter, because the mainstream liberal media, they are not going to do that, right? They're not going to tell the viewers this is why the criticisms matter. They're going to pretend like the criticisms are either unfounded or they're out of bounds, they're not fair, right? But again, they are valid and legit because it speaks to somebody's character, okay, and judgment. And these are things that are important when you're talking about the president of the United States.
Question. Donald Trump didn't serve in the military. He received a medical draft deferment for bone spurs to avoid serving in the Vietnam War, reportedly as a favor to his father. Do you find that shameful, too?
I think that Donald Trump didn't serve in the military, but he didn't lie about it, Dana. I've known Donald Trump for a long time. He really honors our veterans. He honors me for my service. Donald Trump didn't lie about serving in the military. He didn't say that he went to Vietnam when he didn't. This is the problem. I don't criticize anybody, whether they served our country or not. I think it's honorable to serve, but obviously a lot of people have reasons for not serving. I criticize somebody for embellishing their record, for lying, saying, I went to war. Dana, do you think that it's a problem that he said, I went to war, but he didn't actually? That seems to be a problem to me.
Well, they've corrected that. Let's move on to...
They've corrected it by admitting that he lied.
Let's move on to another important issue to voters, and that is the issue of abortion.
Oh, now she want to move on to abortion. See what she did? See what she did there, guys? When JD Vance turned her back around on her, she didn't answer the question. But the question that JD Vance asked was, do you think that it's okay that Tim Walz lied about his record? And she answered that question by saying, well, they've corrected the record. Well, that's not the question, Dana. Do you think it's okay? Again, it's just so funny how as soon as these people that are used to asking these questions, as soon as they get a question, oh, they want to run away from it, right? They don't want to answer it, right? This is what happened. They waved the white flag, right? Say, we give up. Please stop talking about this. And then what they do next is that they try to bring up some irrelevant thing about Trump to try to get a gotcha, right? That's what that question was. It was a gotcha question. Well, do you think it was dishonorable that Trump dodged the draft? This is what they accused Trump of doing. But again, it's amazing how, once again, Dana Bash conveniently forgets that Joe Biden was accused of doing the same thing. Joe Biden was like, oh, I got asthma, right? He got out of going to Vietnam like 5 times. So again, listen, here's the thing. If you want to have that conversation, if you're going to bring that up, then you need to make sure you bring up Joe Biden doing that as well too, right? Because they love trying to use that against Trump, but it's like, yo, at the end of the day, I can't say whether or not Joe Biden's medical condition or Trump's medical condition was justification for them going to Vietnam. And I'm not in a position to make that judgment. I don't know if they actually tried to dodge the draft, but that's not what the criticism of Tim Walz is about, right? Dana Bash knows that, but they bring that up just, again, as a way to attack the Republican, to try to get at Trump, and to try to take away the attention and the criticisms from the Democrats, right? This is what they're doing. And she's just doing it so overtly, right? That's the problem, okay? Like, this is not journalism. It's not. This is not journalism. But regardless, JD, he handled that well, right? She moved on, okay, after he turned that back around on her. He just gave a masterclass on how to deal with the media, how to do these interviews, which is something that Kamala Harris is not doing, which is something that JD Vance brought up a ton of times, which is that, hey, Kamala Harris is not talking, and she's not talking for a reason, okay? Because if the mainstream liberal media would actually interview Kamala Harris the way that they interview JD Vance, Kamala Harris would fall apart, right? But JD Vance, not only did he push back against the media narrative, but I think that he did a great job of attacking Kamala Harris at the same time. And again, we're seeing why JD Vance was picked as Trump's running mate, because again, he's really, really, really good at handling the media, which is important. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.